So the video started. So yours probably looks a bit different than mine. I just downloaded my model here for the, for the PythonClub. A couple of things just to re-emphasize. A couple of things that people that I saw still had. You want the dashed lines 98% of the time. The solid lines are going to make a mess. When you use the solid line, what it does is it includes the foreign key, which these are just diamonds. It includes them as part of the primary key. And that is a problem. That doesn't work for most things. These are called, see if I can remember the terminology now. The solid lines going to like a, this is a linking table. So that's fine. That makes both of these part of the primary key, because in the linking table, the composite key can make sense. These are called identifying links. And basically, an identifying link is one that does just that. The foreign key is also a part of the primary key of the child table. So whenever you have a solid line, it creates an identifying link. And these are called non-identifying. Most designers ignore that, but for some reason, Workbench gives you both tools, and it can cause some problems. If you use the wrong one, what you'll find out is that almost all the fields are into one giant composite key. And if you want to do any other relations, you also have to move all of those. You can't, when you have a composite key, you can't just move part of the key. You have to move the whole key, even if it's your whole table. So that's a problem. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? That's a very subtle, weird thing that generally doesn't come up in a designer, but it does in Workbench. Okay. You guys need to have some questions just to keep me going. I've had not nearly enough coffee today. All right. So let me maximize this. I haven't done that yet. Okay. So the other part, and let me bring this down a little. I'm going to bring up the zoom, the magnifier. Okay, this is mostly, can you see these up here? All right, so the database menu option from the model. Another thing not to do, generally it's not a great idea to enter your data in the model. It will let you do it. It is possible to enter the data in the model. But when you forward engineer it, you leave the data behind usually. So you want to do it once you've actually made it into an actual database. And the way you do that is to forward engineer. Most of you have done this. When you forward engineer, it takes this model and it turns it into an actual MySQL database. And it walks you through these. Most of these there are lots of little things you can change. But for the most part, like the stored connection, you don't have to do anything. It is the stored connection. We don't have to really do anything with these. You don't want to change the port. You would only change those if you had customized your server. I'm going to do next. And you don't have to do anything here either. It's basically asking what things you want to not script. And we're going to script everything. Again, we don't have a lot of other stuff except for the tables to script. I'm going to do next. And then it'll ask for the password, unless you have saved it. If you save the password to the vault, you don't have to type it in. But it's probably better practice not to. And again, I just use password 1. Okay, and then again, you have export the table objects, export view, export routine, all of these. We've only got table objects, so that's all we need. So it gives you the SQL. And one of the things you could do with this if you want, so we could do next and execute it, which we're going to do. But if you wanted to save the SQL here, you can save it to a file or you can copy it to a clipboard. Right, and this is the SQL for creating tables. Right, so each of these is basically creating the tables. And that's actually all there is the table, or the tables. If there are any errors, they'll happen when you do go next. But if you're lucky, everything will, succeed. So are there any questions on that? So we forward engineered it. Where that is at the server. If the server isn't open, you can just click on the home, the little house. And there's the local instance. And I'm going to click on that. It will ask me for the password again. Okay. So it'll open up here. Now this is the Sakila one, which actually is what I'm going to query when I do the SQL. But we've got the PythonClub. I think this is PythonClub 3 that I just did. And it has all of the tables. Right. A couple of things I mentioned before. When you forward engineer it, it's actually better not to go back to the model to correct things and engineer it again, because it tends to blend things rather than replace. One of the things you can do at any time, so as you mouse over, I don't know if you can see it, but the first one is an I for information. The second one is a wrench. And that allows you to make changes to the tables. And then the last part is for data. It's a little grid for entering data. So if I hit the wrench, it gives me the structure of the table and the data types, and then I can go through here and change some of these aspects. If I do the information, it just gives me some general information about the table. And then if I do this, I can do that. Notice it runs SQL even as we do the forms. Select star from PythonClub, right? That's what we get. And it's empty because there's nothing in it. But it's running the SQL in the background even as we do this. Why is that so small? Okay, that works. Control plus works there. I'm going to do member first. I'm just going to add a couple of records. Most of you have done this, but just partially to have it all on video. So it's interesting when I do it again, it doesn't zoom. I have to zoom it separately. And this part, I don't know if it'll zoom down here. No. So I think I made the ID number as auto number, so I don't have to enter anything there. Member last name. Can never have too many Smiths. First name, John. Email, js@gmail. I know that's tiny. I don't know if I can make that bigger. I was looking for something that says, so the date joined I'm just going to do as today. Couple of things about dates is they want to be, let me zoom up a little with the zoomer. They want to be done as year, month, day in that format. And if you don't, you'll probably get an error, right? Now, when I go down here in the corner, there's an apply. If you don't apply it, it won't be saved. So when I click on apply, if it succeeds, you'll get an execute the SQL statement. If it doesn't succeed, you'll get an error there. So I've got that. But if you don't apply it, it won't be written to the database. So I've got member. Let's do officer real quickly. I'm not going to do a lot of these. So officer name, or that should actually be office name. So I'm going to do president. I'm going to do treasurer. I'm only going to do 2 of these. I wonder if I can leave that null. Come back down to save, apply. Notice it has 2 inserts there, 1 insert for each row. And if you look, you want to see you can see it there. I'm going to apply it. And that finished. And then the very last thing I want to do is just officer member. That's member I want to do. And then we got officer member. So I'm going to do the start date. And this has to be a number that exists, so we've only got 1 member. And we've got 2. This could be 1 or 2. And then I will apply it. So you have to type in the foreign keys, right? They have to match. You have to do that, and then they'll be there. Any questions on that? Most of you are okay with this. A lot of you have already got some data in there. But are there any questions on that? You have to do these in a certain order, just like in SQL Server. You have to do the primary key before you can do the foreign key. And there's no auto-populating. You have to type in the foreign keys. So that means you may have to take a look at the other ones. So there are long tabs here. You can always pop them out, go look at them like this. They can also, although I'm not sure I want to, I think they can float. Can they? Maybe not. I thought they would float. All right, maybe not. There might be under view, panels. I'm not sure. It's interesting. All right. So they aren't floating. Any questions on data entry and all of that? So, couple of things. The create database assignment, I think I've told you this mostly. A picture of this is good enough for the create database. The data we'll get right now when we're doing the basically the assignment on SQL. So I'm going to go, wow, that's big now. So I'm going to go down here to the PythonClub sample data and tests. And so we want to do basically list all the club members, list all the events, list all the resources. Those are just simple selects. They look exactly the same as they did in SQL Server. I'm going to do a few more today. List all the resources, list the meeting notes for a particular date, add a new member. These are inserts. Add a new event. Comment on a post. This one you may not do because I think almost nobody added comments. So just skip that. Update a member's email address. So I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you a little bit more too, and then we'll let you guys get working on it. So the goal would be, ideally, to finish up with this stuff before next week when we start the the Mongo. But if you don't, that's okay too. There's time. We actually have a couple, 3 weeks, so we have more time than we really need. So let me go back to Workbench. I'm going to, there's no data in mine, right? So I'm going to just sort of close that. I'm going to do the Sakila one. Have you, you may or may not have the Sakila. It's a built-in sample database, and it's optional to install it. So if you don't have it, you may not be able to follow along too much, but I'm just going to do this. And it's basically a DVD rental store, so it's a bit archaic, I think. It's hard to find DVDs anymore. I'm going to say use Sakila, and let me make this bigger. I don't know what Sakila stands for. Is it a word that I don't know, or, I mean, that's something. So I'm going to, and that should be a semicolon. If I execute that, oh, it executed both. Should only execute this one. So down below, way down here, it says a little green check mark. Means that it worked okay. This is just when you, particularly when you have commands that don't return anything, it just does a check mark, says if it's good. If it's bad, it's a little red X. All right. So we're using Sakila. That means I just set the database context. Notice how this one says PythonClub.3. That means it's just using a generic kind of access, but it's specifying which database and then dot field. When you do this, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just specify. I can just say select star from actor. And that should work. Yeah, so it gives me all the actors. And there's a fair number of them. It returned 200 rows, so there's 200 of them. Okay. So that's all pretty much the same. Let's do a couple of things. I didn't ask for any joins, but let's do a couple of little joins if you wanted to. Let's say we wanted to know which films a particular actor had done. So if you look at this, and we could actually reverse engineer this. The other one we forward engineered. If we want it, we could reverse engineer and it would create a model for it, which would actually probably be a good thing to do. But we've got actor, film, and film actor. So I assume that those are the three that link. So again, this isn't required, but I think it's good to see joins. Also, if you're interested in SQL, doing like a whole quarter of it, getting deep into it, there is a ITC 222 class next quarter. And it's useful for a lot of things. If you're working with databases, they're going to assume you know some SQL. So let's look at what's in film. So we've got the title. I think that's really most of what I want. We've got the film and the actor, which is probably just actor ID and film ID. So let's do select last name. Actually, they do an underscore. Oh, let's do first name. First name, last name. Let's do film. Oh, let's just do title from film. Anything else you want to see from there? Description. Let's do the description. Okay. So this will give us the actor and the thing, first name, last name, title, and description. And then I'm going to do from. Description seems to be a reserved word. So we're going to do it from actor. And we're going to do an inner join. Do you guys remember we did these? So inner join with actor. Is it film actor? Yeah, film underscore actor. I am curious if this works. You can't do this in SQL Server, but I think you can do that instead of doing on actor ID equals film actor ID. You might get away with this since MySQL. You can do it in Postgres, I know. This may fail. I'm going to do another inner join film, and then I'm going to say using, this may not work, film ID. This only works if the primary key is exactly the same as the foreign key in name, and it may not work at all anyway. Where is my It did work though. Let's actually do one other thing. We'll say where where actor ID equals 1, or just maybe where actor, let's just say we're first name or last name. Let's do last name equals Guinness. Did I spell that right? So these are her films: Academy Dinosaur, Aconda Confessions, Angel's Wife, Bulworth Commandments, Cheaper Clyde, Epic Drama of a Feminist and a Mad Scientist who must battle a teacher in the Canadian Rockies. Okay. Whoever wrote this must have had some fun. A beautiful panorama of a lumberjack and a forensic psychologist who must overcome a frisbee in a balloon. Oh well. I think that sounds like maybe they had an AI fill it in. All right, so does that make sense? Now this using is an alternate way of doing a join, but it's a lot easier. And it works in MySQL. Right? But it only works if your primary key and foreign key have the same name. Otherwise, you would have to do, I'll copy this and do it the other way, which is always works. Otherwise, instead of using, you'd have to say on actor ID equals film actor ID. And then this one would be on film underscore ID equals film underscore actor film underscore ID. This gives exactly the same results. I think. Did it fail?
Film actor has a comma instead of a M.
Oh, Where did I do it?
Right down.
19, 18. Work film ID. Oh, I see. Good eye. So F5 doesn't work. That's interesting. So it has exactly the same result if you spell things right. All right. So I didn't ask you to do any real joins. Most of your stuff can be done like this, right, for selecting stuff. If you want to look at all the members and if you want to look at all the meetings, you can do that. The other things that I had you do were some inserts and updates. Do you guys have any questions or anything you particularly want to see? Everything you can do in a relational database, you can do with SQL. Everything, including administrative things like backup and restore, and automate things and run things. You can all do it with SQL.
The where
Yeah,
it's kind of like a conditional.
it is.
Do those always have to come at the end?
They do have to come at the end. I won't say always. There's a couple of,
Okay.
but generally they do. And we could do other things too. Like if we wanted to look at, so I'm going to just go back to this. And we're looking at the dates. They're all like 2006. They're all the same date. That's really useless. I want to do it between two dates. They're all the same date. They're all the same minute. They're all the same second. They're all the same millisecond. Let's see what other ones we've got. What other fields we've got. Film text. Well, here's payments. Let's do a select star from payment. I just want to show you some other where criteria. Okay, so these are payments. They were all paid on the same date. Well,
They're updated on the same date.
they're all updated on the same date. The payments are different. Okay. So I wanted to show, so let's say they're all updated on the same date. Are they all 2005? No, there's in 2005. So I'm going to add a where to this. So I'm going to say where payment date. And I'm going to say between. And I'm going to, in quotes, do 2005. What month do we want? Let's just do June 2005 06-01 and 2005 -06. There's 30 days in June, right? And that should be in quotes both ways. And what that will do is it'll give us only the ones that were in June. Notice, I don't know if you can see, but they're all 6 for the month. Between lets you, it's actually quite useful for that. We could also look for payments. Let's just do select star from payment where amount is greater than 5. So these are the ones that are greater than 5. That makes sense? So you can do lots of different criteria. This is actually a key. And I'll show you a couple other little things, and then we'll do the inserts and updates, which are part of your assignment. But,
another weird question.
sure.
What if one of the where conditions is in the line?
That'd be fine. So let's run this one, and we'll add another condition. So this one has a join, right?
Yeah, like if it's, you want the ones with that last name and something, some matching title.
Right. I'm just trying to think of what other thing we could get in there. Actually, there's two Sean. There's a Sean Guinness too. Let's say where last name equal Guinness. And first name equals Sean. Did I spell Sean right? So that's one thing we could do. So now it's only Sean Guinness. And let's say we wanted to see, this is a weird condition, but it's something you can do also. And title like, and I'm going to do S. I'm not actually sure this will work because I'd have to look. The wildcard might vary. Oh, it did work. So we got 3 conditions. Last name is Guinness, first name is Sean, and the movie starts with S. You can get really subtle in your criteria, and you can. It has all the booleans. You can use or, and you can use not.
Yeah, so it's something like missing.
Yeah.
The where is the next first.
You can only have one where keyword, but you can mix after the where. You can do and or not, and you can have as many as you want to. And they behave like normal booleans. With the and, each one eliminates. They all have to be true for any of it to be true. If I were to add an or, then it will give me anything by Sean Guinness or a movie that starts with S. It's hard to highlight. So all of these movies start with S, but we also get everything, Ors are kind of weird. They expand things a lot. All right. None of that is super relevant, but do you have other questions? So I said SQL is a really valuable skill, particularly if you're doing kind of data, analysis and inquiries, getting data out of the database to get it to something that will do the analysis. Okay. I might go back to PythonClub for the next one, for the inserts. Just because I'm not sure what to insert here. Are there any questions more? You can have as many as you want. You guys are so quiet. You're at least asking a couple questions, but all right, let's do inserts. Couple of things. When I make a database, remember how you saw this SQL, from the past. That's how I create a database generally. So I just write all the SQL. It's faster. But you have to kind of know what you still have to diagram it. You have to figure out what the diagram is, and then do the SQL to create it. We might make make one table just to do that, just to show you how you can do that, and then I will, as I said. So I'm going to use PythonClub again. And I think it's PythonClub 3, and it's not user. It's use. One of the things I will do, I think we have time in the next 3 weeks too, is I will I will talk about security on all 3 of the different databases. Because we haven't really talked about security, and it is an important part. So I'm going to let's look at PythonClub again. So we have an officer member, resources, resource type, speakers, meeting minutes. My meeting columns, I have the member that does that. Meeting date, meeting time, meeting topic. I'm going to add a new member, and he will be the person who's referenced in the meeting, and then we will do some minutes. So we'll do member, and I think they have to be an officer, so I'll make them an officer. I'll just show you. You have to insert into a lot of different places. Maybe just the officer would be enough. I'm going to, so we'll do insert into member. And it's a good idea to list the fields. So let's look at member. I don't know. Can you do this? That did nothing. But I think I can do. I was just drug them in because it's easier. So what I did is I highlighted them over here, holding down the control key, and then I drug them in. So I'm going to do values. And what do we want as a last name for this one? Anybody? We did Smith. I guess we could do Jones. I have no idea why Dale, but that's all right. Member email, DJ at. And then the date join, dates are also, so I'm going to do 2019 02. Today's the 20th. Let's do it yesterday. Okay, so that will give us, if I insert, the semicolons are not required, but if you don't do them, the next one will be red underlined. So I did that. It says that it worked. One way you can tell is if I do select star from member. And we will see that there are 2 members now. So there's Jones, Dale, as well as Smith. And the key is 2. So if I insert into, what is it, officer member. And then let me get the fields for that. Okay, so values. And I will do start date is today. So just change that to 20. The member ID is 2, and the officer ID would be 2. That makes them the secretary or the treasurer, whatever it was. Okay. And then if we wanted to do a meeting, I think this is the last one I'm going to do. You get the idea. Insert into meeting. So are you guys totally bored? Oh, I don't have any locations. So I'm going to have to do a location first. And then it'll be done. Insert into location. Okay, so I'm going to enter the location and we'll enter the meeting, then we'll be done with those. We'll do an update and I'll call it good unless you have questions. Is it that late in the quarter, I guess, that we're just in? So what is the location name? Let's just say Central 1701 Broadway, Seattle. 98122, which should be in quotes also. Two oh six 555 1234. Okay, so we have that. I will insert that. And then the last thing we'll do is meeting, which has to be values, not laws. Does anybody remember the function for the current date? I'll just enter the date. There's a function that will return the current date. Time, this one might be, time has to be entered in military time. Topic stuff. That one shouldn't be quoted. Okay, so I'm going to enter that. Okay, so the only point being that when you do inserts, particularly if you have to do them manually like this, they have to go into multiple tables. When you create a web page, you can create the underlying script, and the form just gets, the fields get distributed to the various insert statements. Or sometimes you can write a stored procedure, which is a combination of insert statements, basically. And instead of these being literal values, they would be variables coming from the form, right? So even underneath it all, you still have all these different inserts because you have to spread it out to all the proper tables. Last thing, and this is basically, I asked you to update. So I'm going to do a quick select from member again, and we'll change one of the members. So let's make it Bill Jones instead of Dale Jones. I'm going to change Jones's first name. So I'm going to do update member. Right, and I'm going to set member first name equals Bill. And this is really important where ID member equals 2. Remember what happens if you don't specify a where statement? Everybody would be named Bill, yeah. Which when you only have 2 isn't a big deal. But when you have 25,000, that could be a problem. So if I do a select star from member again, it will be Bill. So updates are for changing existing data. It's now Bill Jones. And inserts are for creating new data. And then you can always delete by just saying delete from member where ID member equals 2. It actually wouldn't allow us to delete right now. Anybody know why? This is the last thing. Oh, let's go down. I'll try to delete Bill. Delete from member where ID member equals 2. It'll give an error. And it says delete. So no, I don't know if you can see it. There's a little red star there. And it says cannot delete or update a parent row. Right? There's a foreign key because we made member, we put them into the officer and the meeting thing. So you have to delete those before you can delete Bill. I think that's enough. I will put all this into the blog so you'll have those examples. The goal, it's fairly easy. The hardest part is getting the data into the database, just getting the data into all the tables. And again, you only need 4 or 5 records max into those. And then try to do these. Now, I don't think anybody put comments as a table. So if you can't do it, do something else or skip it, and I'll be fine with it. Questions?
Using insert, you must be able to insert multiple values in a table at a time. So
actually, that's a good question. So let's go back. So these are all going into different tables, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we wanted to just enter some more like office.
Well, a bunch of numbers, since that's like the one that doesn't have any blanks, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so we could do members. It just has more fields. But you're right, officer does. All right, so let's do insert into member. I'm just going to copy this down. All right, so we've already got Jones, so let's make it DM. Okay, so that's good enough, right? So I'm going to do a comma, and I'm going to do another paren.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I'm just going to go through and, in fact, the easiest thing to do. Okay, and then I'm going to do, oh, I don't know. JD. And then we'll do it again. I'll do one more. All right, so and then this last comma needs to be replaced with semicolon. If I run those, all right, it says fine, and it inserted into member. And then if I do a quick select from member again, you'll see that it added all of them. So that's what you were looking for, right?
Yes, I would much rather do that than to.
It actually is faster than trying to do it into the forms, yes. You still have the primary key, foreign key problem, and you'll get errors. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll let you guys, where are you? I know some of you have entered the data. How many have entered the data? One person? Two? All right, so we're not that far along. So if you enter the data today, try to get the data in. Maybe if you get the data in, you can try to do some queries. If not, there'll be some time next week too. Because Monday, what I hope to do is install Mongo, talk about it a little bit, but there should be some time to finish this up. Let me post this onto the blog, and then if you need things, call me over.
Do some help with the queries when you have a minute.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me post this real quick, and then I will. And stop the video.